here. Today's session is titled Introduction to Pre-Sales, Discover and Dive In. What we really want y'all to take away from this session is we want you to learn more about the pre-sales profession. We also want y'all to learn a little bit more about PreSales Academy, but learn about it as in regard to an option to breaking into this field. And this is ultimately a learning space. So we hope you take a lot from this event and can learn it to open your mind and kind of do some more research, because making a career change requires a lot of research and making sure, hey, it's a good next step for y'all. So what's the exact agenda for tonight? So we're going to talk about what is pre-sales. We're going to talk about what the skills are required for this profession. We're going to talk about why should you consider this profession, as well as why should you consider PreSales Academy as a tool in your journey. And also we have a recent graduate with us tonight. Actually, our graduate's here from cohort 5. So he's been in the pre-sales role for a little bit now, but I really wanted to bring him back into the space. So Mark will be joining us later in the session, and then we will open things up for Q&A. So that is our agenda today. But let's get started with some introductions, because I'm sure y'all are wondering who the heck is going to be talking to us today. Well, this is a quick overview of the PreSales Academy team. So first and foremost, we have Chris Mabry. He is our general manager for PreSales Collective. Just a side note, PreSales Academy and PreSales Collective, we're one and the same. We're part of the same group and team, but this is a core team that works primarily with our PreSales Academy program. But our fearless leader who really oversees everything enablement and PreSales Academy and all of our other enablement programs is Liz Anderson. So she is our director of learning. She comes from many years in the pre-sales profession, previously at Slack. And I'm going to hand it over to my co-presenter, Winnie, to give her more formal introduction of herself.
Hey folks, welcome. My name is Winnie Delson. I'm the lead training program manager. I primarily oversee PreSales Academy, but also oversee Foundations, which is one of our enablement programs. I'm so excited to be here with you all to share what a wonderful experience PreSales Academy is and see if you all can get dialed in.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Winnie. And then I am Nina Berger. I am the Senior Career Services Manager for PreSales Academy. So my role oversees the admissions process as well as the career placement process for PreSales Academy. So I like to say it's the front and back end of the experience. And that is kind of our core team who works to help support our students. There's a lot of other people who are involved, which we'll talk about later, but that is our team. So before we dive into what is pre-sales, I like to chat briefly about kind of what's that bigger picture. I know a lot of people are here because they want to explore a new field. They want to make a career change. And the biggest question I always get from people is, hey, am I a good fit for this profession? Who is the best type of student to come into this program? And what I always like to say is there's no set background or experiences that always equate to success in pre-sales. I would say our students come from a variety of backgrounds, and this slide is just a quick snapshot of the types of personas we usually see coming into this program. For example, we have students who will come into this program with no tech experience, no sales experience, but they have highly transferable skills. That example here is Cassie. Cassie comes from an education background, so she had strong presentation skills, communication skills, and she was able to leverage that into a role at Beeline. But we also see students who have had experience in the sales process. Evan is a good example here. He had experience as a business development rep. He wanted to ramp up, realign within the sales profession, and now he is doing solution consulting at ServiceNow. But we also see students who come with a strong technical background. So students who might be software engineers or services consultants. And that's why I have Camilla on this slide, because she represents the students who come in with a technical background. They come into this program and they're able to leverage their technical side and make that shift into a pre-sales role. Overall, there's multiple paths and kind of backgrounds you can leverage going into pre-sales. What we always emphasize is, do you have those transferable skills and experiences that will really give you a solid foundation for moving forward? Because ultimately, this program and this profession really values past experience so that you could build off of it, reskill, and leverage that going forward. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about what is pre-sales just to make sure everyone is on the same page. So, what is pre-sales? Ultimately, pre-sales is a sales function that exists in business to business technology sales. So, one way to think about the pre-sales role is really to think about the other roles that exist in your traditional sales process. And there are three core tech sales roles that really interact with the customer when someone is buying a new piece of technology. Your first role you'll typically see, and honestly, this role is pretty common out there, is you'll first see your sales development rep or your SDR. This person is the one who's finding the opportunities. They're bringing in the customers, building that pipeline, and they're opening the sales process. They are the one who is doing the cold calling to find potential buyers. They're coordinating and introducing that customer to the account executive, and they're doing a lot of account research. It requires a lot of reps and building those customer relationships and then handing them off to the next person in line, which is technically your account executive. The account executive is another major role in the sales process. They are typically your closer of the sales process. They're the person who comes in and manages the account strategy. They're the person who will manage that account relationship once the customer has been vetted and they want to go through the sales process. And they're the person who's going to ultimately negotiate and close the deal. So they will be there from when the sales development rep introduces the account executive until that customer decides to purchase a product or move on. And then the third role, which is the reason why we're all here, is that solutions consultant or pre-sales role. I like to say this role really exists in the middle of the sales process. So they are the person who comes in, partners with the account executive to really work with the customer, uncover what the business problems are for the customer. They're really finding solutions for the customer with technology, and they're performing product demos. They really like to exist in the middle of the process as a supporting role to help with the sales process overall, because the account executive can't do everything in the process to close a sale. And that's why we have roles like the solutions consultant to aid in the process. Let me get you a little bit more of a detailed example. So basically, if a company was looking for a new video conferencing platform, they might go to Zoom and look to buy their product. The sales engineer would kind of come in the middle of the process to ask questions of the customer of what they're looking for with a video conferencing platform and understand what needs do they have. And ultimately, they'll be the one providing them a solution demonstration of how does Zoom work and how does it meet the needs of that customer slash company. So let's get into a little bit of the nitty gritty of what does a solution consultant do. So I mentioned it already, but the big components of what solution consultant does is first and foremost, do product demonstrations. So they're the person who will configure a product or a piece of software and tailor it to their audience. And this is where some technical skills come into play. You need to ultimately refine what you're showing to make sure that your audience is seeing things that relate to them and kind of resonate with them. People find this part of the role to be really exciting because you get to customize what you're presenting and you get to do something that really requires variety from day to day. The other thing you get to do in this role is lead discovery meetings. This is usually happening in the early parts of when a solutions consultant comes into the sales process. They're connecting with the customers, they're learning what their pain points are, they're building rapport with the customer, and they're really leveraging active listening to know, hey, what will resonate with the customer when I come back to them and do a presentation later. You're also going to be answering technical and business questions to solve problems. So since you ultimately are going to be that solution or product expert, you really need to know what you're selling at the end of the day. And so every customer is going to come into the space with a new challenge, a new problem. And so you're going to have to constantly think about, hey, how am I really making sure I'm answering these questions and meeting the needs of my customers, which can be really stimulating in our role. Last two things that a solution consultant does is build relationships and provide feedback. You build relationships not only with your customers, but also with your other sales team members, like your account executives or even other SDs and sales development reps. You also build relationships with internal partners like product managers, marketing, software developers. And this is kind of where the product provide feedback comes in. Since you exist in a role that works with the customers and collaborates so often, you could sometimes serve as that bridge of, our customers are asking for X. Can we provide it in our product over time? Can I help our company grow, gain more customers, and ultimately be that superstar product that everyone wants to purchase? So these are the major aspects of what really a solutions consultant does. They exist in the middle of the sales process. They are really that person who's coming in, assisting with the sale, and really being that product expert. One thing to keep in mind, though, is I've used the title pre-sales, I've said solutions consultant, I might have said sales engineer. This profession has a lot of different titles that different companies will equate to the typical pre-sales role. And that's completely normal. If you're like, oh, Nina, I've seen the title sales engineer here, solutions consultant there, and the position descriptions read rather similar. That is honestly just what kind of we've been seeing in the profession so far. Some companies believe that this role is a little bit more technical because of their product, and other companies believe this role is a little bit more solutions oriented because of their mission and how they run their sales process. So these are a collection of titles we typically see in pre-sales. Our students and in a lot of different companies with different titles, and it's perfectly normal in the pre-sale space to see a variety of titles that mean the same thing in the job process. What I always emphasize to students is as you're exploring the profession, it's all about finding what does the position do? What's in the position requirements? Because if that role is demoing, if that role is doing discovery meetings, building relationships and collaborating, it's usually a pre-sales role, even if the title might be a little funky. And then to wrap up, what is pre-sales? I always like to emphasize to prospective students of what is usually not required in the pre-sales profession. Usually in these roles, we don't see cold calling because you're the person who comes in and the customer's already been discovered and acquired. And you're the person who's now working with them now that they're intrigued by the product and they want to learn more. You're usually not seeing negotiating in this role because that is usually reserved for your account executive who's seeing that whole account life and managing the account strategy. And depending on the company and the product that you're working with, sometimes you also don't see a lot of that technical building. Sometimes you will see a little bit of coding and readjustment if you're building a demo environment for a more technical product, but this role doesn't build technology. It is one who is a product expert, but they're not the one building the product. And so usually you don't see a lot of coding in these roles. That being said, I am going to switch into what skills are really needed for this profession. Because we've talked about the different aspects of the role, we've talked about the different personas, and a big question I'm often receive is what skills are needed to be successful in pre-sales? And since we see a lot of career changers coming into this profession from a variety of backgrounds, I've consistently seen a series of competencies and skills amongst all the candidates that have really equated to their success. So let us dive in. Let's explore these skills. First one might not be a surprise to everyone, but the first skill that I often highly emphasize as needed for this profession is communication. You need strong communication skills for conveying ideas, delivering your solutions, and presenting. Communication really ties into not only verbal, but written. How are you communicating with others on your team? And also, how are you coming into a presentation or a demo with presence? This skill can be found in a lot of different ways. It doesn't need to be direct presentation experience to possess this skill, but communication is a necessity for pre-sales. Next, you need some technical curiosity. Because this role serves as a product expert, you need to learn the ins and outs of your product. And so you need to develop a deep understanding of your company's products and services, and ultimately be the person who wants to learn more. In our ever-changing technology environment, our products and the software out there is always changing. So you do need to have that thirst to want to learn more, adjust, and be flexible as things change. And if that's something that excites you, this role can be a really good space because so many hiring managers nowadays really want someone not only who can jump in, make a good presentation, but is curious and wants to learn more because that'll carry you farther in this profession. Next is problem solving. So I kind of alluded to this before with working with so many customers, but you do need to navigate through many challenges with your customers and identify their pain points, as well as make tailored solutions that address the needs of your customers. You do need to be adaptive. You need to leverage creative thinking. And when you're dealing with these problems, you need to think about, hey, how am I driving solutions so it allows us to move forward? This goes back to the part of the role that's really flexible and exciting because these problem solving skills require you to think on your feet. It provides variety. And also, I find a lot of pre-sales professionals say this is an area where it's a challenge that I'm excited to take on. And last skill that I think is super important for this profession is ultimately collaboration. As I mentioned before, you are going to collaborate with your account executives as well as your customers, and you need to work seamlessly with these groups. And you need to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So collaboration is really about, hey, how am I managing stakeholders? How am I making sure other people's voices are heard? How am I bringing everyone to the table? And how do I work with a variety of people to ultimately meet that end goal? Overall, I think those are the four big skills that are so necessary to come into this space. These skills can be found from a variety of different positions and can be leveraged into the pre-sales space. I've had teachers come through this program. I've had real estate agents. I've had sales development reps, as well as those software engineers. And even though these skills can be found in different roles, that doesn't mean that they can't equate to this profession because ultimately, this profession is looking for professionals who really are ready to jump in, learn the product, speak to the customer. And that doesn't always mean that they're coming from a set background. So those are the big skills I think are so necessary for pre-sales. So, and what I like to also chat a bit about is why pre-sales? I chatted about what it is, what you need for this profession, but over all the time, a lot of people ask us, hey, why should I go into this profession? Why is this exciting? Why is this the best place for me? Well, we've chatted with a lot of people within our pre-sales community, and one of the big things that comes up often in our conversations is people all the time say, I wish I found this role earlier in my career. And there's a lot of reasons why they found this role early in their career. We see pre-sales as a really dynamic profession. This is a role that really is fast-paced and works in an environment that is ever changing. And what's really nice about this role is you get to deal with a variety of challenges. Every day can look different because you work with a variety of customers, and that can really provide a lot of satisfaction if you're someone who wants to do things differently every day. I talk to a lot of career changers who are like, hey, I hate doing the same thing day over day in, day out. I need some change. This profession offers that change and challenges. You also, within this profession, are in a role that has a lot of impact. Since you exist in the middle of the sales process and you are that product expert, you are in a role where ultimately you're really shaping the customer experience. You're someone who could be make or break if a customer wants to buy a product or if they want to go see a competitor. It's really exciting because you get to contribute to that sense of we're getting the win. We're helping a customer adopt a product and a piece of software that they're excited about. And that has a lot of impact because if you didn't weren't in the process and you weren't showing this product, maybe that sale might have not happened. As well as what we've seen in this profession is this is a space for a lot of career growth. Like I've mentioned about the skills that are needed for pre-sales, a lot of skills that you need for pre-sales and you develop within the pre-sales role are highly transferable. So you're able to take your time in this role and either grow within the position from an individual contributor to a senior individual contributor, or you could take what you've learned from this position and bring it into other roles in technology sales. I've seen people go from a traditional pre-sales role into more of a value engineer where they're a little bit more sitting to the business side of the house. I've seen people go into this role and even switch into more of a solutions architect because they want to be more technical. And it's nice to have that flexibility in a profession where you can start somewhere, adjust, and still leverage what you've learned and have transferable skills and experiences, which it's nice because you don't feel like you're hitting a ceiling over time. The other reason why people love pre-sales that I would be silly to not mention is there is also a high earning potential in pre-sales just because you do work with companies that are selling some pretty high demand products. So usually we see within the profession that usually the starting salary is pretty high because you're in a role that does require a unique combination of skills. What we've honestly been seeing amongst our graduates is most students are averaging around 118K starting compensation, but thinking about the profession in general, usually starting in this role, you're sitting around 100K on target earnings, which means combination of both variable and base pay. If people have questions about that, always feel free to put that into the chat for future times. But in addition, there's high earning potential in this role because as you're growing and becoming more of a contributor, you can really still continually see that growth in your salary and not hit a ceiling, especially because you do have that variable pay aspect of your salary. So that's what's really exciting. It's like, hey, I get to do exciting work. I get to work with really cool products. And I also have the salary that kind of makes me feel like, hey, my work is being valued at the end of the day. These are just some examples of some of the companies that hire sales engineers. Some of these companies are companies that our students have actually landed with in the past, and even in the present. But this kind of just gives you an idea of the types of products out there that our students are going to. Every student is going to gravitate towards a different product based on their background and experience. But there's a lot of pieces of technology out there that are looking for a lot of different people to sell their products. So I'm going to take a quick pause for any questions. I did see Hannah's question in the chat, but I think I'm going to leave that for our guest speaker when they come later. But does anyone have any other burning questions before I hand over to Winnie to talk about PreSales Academy? All good. If you have questions, make sure you leave in the Q&A. But let me hand it over to Winnie to talk about PSA.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nina. Now that we've covered what pre-sales is, the skills necessary, and why it's a career worth considering. Oh, looks like we have a question from Nate. And Nate, not to worry, we will be sure to address your question before the end of this. Do a pre-sales role, right? There are a few ways to do it, but it's a high-paying role for a reason. And that's because it requires some knowledge and skills. And we've built PreSales Academy to give you the exact knowledge and skills you'll need to get a pre-sales job and successfully start your new career. And so today we'll be going through the structure and key elements of our program. This is a comprehensive 10-week journey designed to equip you with the skills and insights necessary to excel in the pre-sales space. And so our program spans 10 weeks, encompasses over 100 hours of training. And we've broken it down into 8 core topics that I'll get into in the next slide here that are covered in 3 stages. And so these stages will guide you through progressive learning with 12 meetings to track your progress and ensure you're staying on course. And so throughout the program, we'll also engage in 5 role plays focused on discovery and demonstration skills. And these role plays are a practical application of what you learn and will help you solidify your understanding through real world scenarios. And so, Nina, if you can hit the next slide for me, these are all the topics you need to be effective as a solutions consultant. And so the program is structured around these 8 key topics. We'll start with pre-sales overview to set the foundation. Then we'll dive into the sales process and value, helping you understand how pre-sales fit into the larger sales cycle. Next, we'll focus on discovery and preparation, which is crucial for effective client engagement. Following that, we'll cover presentation and demo skills, like I mentioned earlier. And then we'll then move into a technical validation and also covering core technologies to help you, to keep you updated on the latest tools and platforms in the field. And in the later stages, we'll explore finding the right pre-sales roles, offering insights into how to choose a role that fits your strengths. And last but certainly not least, we wrap up with interviewing for pre-sales roles, providing you with strategies to succeed in securing your ideal position. And so this program is designed not only to teach you the skills required for pre-sales, but to prepare you for the real world applications, right? And the career path ahead. And so definitely look forward to guiding you through each stage. And so Nina, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide here. A common question we get is why this structure? Well, it's the most effective way to give you the skills, knowledge, and competency that you would need to be in a position to successfully land a role. And so starting with stage one, this is primarily online, where you'll go through online learning such as e-learnings, assignments, videos, reading. And this is really focused on self-paced learning around product enablement, the sales process, and technical validation, like I mentioned earlier. And then with stage two, which is my personal favorite of the stages, this is where we get the hands-on learning. So we have live class sessions about 3 to 4 times a week, typically Monday through Wednesdays. And we adopt a flipped classroom model. So we are not, you will not be on the session for an hour and 30 minutes just listening to me speak. That's a lot of hands-on learning, which encompasses group activities and discussions, and most importantly, role plays. So stage two, you really get to put into practice a lot of that foundational knowledge that you absorbed in stage one. And then our final stage, stage three, which is approximately a week and a half, this will encompass virtual assignments. This is where we really focus on your job search or job strategy. So assignments like your elevator pitch or your LinkedIn resume are what we would primarily work on in stage three. And there are weekly job pursuit office hours, and that is a space for folks to come and, talk strategy as it relates to the job search. It's a perfect space to ask any questions you may have as you navigate this new space. And so definitely see that the job pursuit office hours are really valuable according to our students. But that is our program stages. And so we want our PSA students to be trained by the best. And so we've partnered with training partners who have decades of experience. We've built the curriculum with those partners as well as input from over a dozen experienced pre-sales professionals. And so this slide only shows 6 people, but there are so many people who have helped. And so you can expect to be trained by the best and learn from the best. Alrighty, the program focuses on developing competency, not just skills or knowledge. And we want them to build, we want you all to build a foundational network, right? Learning from others and building a support system to help you through this career transition. And so, all of these sales engineering roles you'll find require some sort of demo or presentation or technical exercise as part of the interview process. And so our program helps you develop that competency so that you can be very effective in those interviews and ultimately get the job. PreSales Academy honestly doesn't stop there, because it's one thing to have skills, knowledge, and competency, but it's a whole nother to have a powerful network and support system behind you and in your corner when you're going through this career transition after program completion, which is the perfect segue, Nina, next slide, please, to talk about individuals who will support you throughout the program, right? So you'll have 3 individuals who you'll meet with one-on-one to support you. First up, you have your PSA advisor, who is essentially your guiding light throughout the program, right? They're your point of contact if you have any questions, but most importantly, they will be supporting you through that job search. And then next up, we have our coaches, and coaches are crucial in helping students obtain skills necessary for pre-sales role. Their primary responsibilities are to facilitate role plays with students, provide actionable feedback, and help them develop competency. And so coaches will attend in grade 3 live role plays with our students. And then last but certainly not least, we have our mentors, whom I like to refer to as like the mom of the bunch, right? They're your sounding board and essentially a helping hand for you all. The mentor's primary responsibilities are to provide advice and guidance. They'll assist you with expanding your network, giving you career advice, and they will meet with students 3 times throughout the program and are expected to do a mock interview with students as a part of their final session. And so these are the 3 key supporting roles for our students. And on this slide, you can see examples of some of our many volunteers from our recent cohort. Our career advisors often outnumber our students enrolled. And we also have a growing alumni network of past graduates who have been supportive of our students and that we're currently revamping. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Thanks so much, Nina. So we're not just giving you training and sending you off to figure things out on your own, right? Far from it. Our ultimate goal is to help students not only land the pre-sales jobs they're aiming for, but to also set them up for long-term success. And so long-term success means you'll gain the skills, you'll build the network, and develop the mindset needed to grow a thriving career and ultimately achieve the goals that matter to you most in life. That
Good.
being said, that is the, sorry, Nina.
You're good. No.
No, I was just wrapping up to say that is a program, an overview of the program. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has, but I'll hand it off to Nina.
Thank you, Winnie. No, thank you so much for covering all of that. Um, so we've talked about the program. Let's talk about the admissions process because Pre-Sales Academy does have an admissions process for our program. Overall, we have an admissions process mainly to make sure that anyone coming into the program is a really good fit, not only for this program, but also the profession. And what we're looking for in the admissions process is what we call the 5 C's. We're always looking for students' commitment to making this change. Have they done the research? Do they know that they're going to be a good fit? And do they have that kind of like drive to push themselves through a very difficult program, but also job search process? We also are looking for strong communication skills. We're looking for curiosity, as well as coachability and critical thinking. I feel like those things really filter well into the profession, but it also filters into what are hiring managers really looking for amongst career changers when they're bringing new talent into their team. So when we're going through an admissions process, our biggest focus is we want to look for those 5 C's in our candidates. We do that through a multiple stage process of a student submits an application. We also will dive into an admissions call with a candidate. And then depending on the candidate, sometimes we'll do a technical exercise with them if that's necessary. And then we'll make a decision on their admission going forward and then talk about enrollment steps. So not only is this program going to really equip you for the profession, but the students coming into the program are ultimately a really good fit because of our rigorous admissions process as well. And so that's enough talking about our program. I really want to shift gears and introduce our guest speaker for today because I'm so happy to have him here. Mark is here from cohort 5. It's been a while since we've had cohort 5, so I'm really excited for him to share his story about coming into Pre-Sales Academy, starting at Netrix. So I'm going to hand it over to Mark. Mark, welcome. Thank you for being our graduate speaker. And could you kick it off with telling everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, hey Nina, hey Winnie, it's good to see you two again. It's been a minute since I came back to Pre-Sales Academy, so I'm kind of excited to be here actually.
Good.
It reminds me of some of the nerves that I got when I started with the academy, but it's funny when I look back at it now. But anyways, a little bit about me. So I am a solutions engineer today. I've been doing it for about 18 months. And I graduated out of the academy cohort number 5, which was, I believe, around August 2022. So a little over 2 years or so.
Yeah.
And I'm a solutions engineer for a company called Netrix, and what they do is they sell cybersecurity software to IT people in different industries. So the reason why I kind of went that way is because I do have a background in IT. I spent several years in IT, and actually got into the position where I was an IT decision maker. So actually buying software from companies and buying IT products. And that's how I discovered sales engineers or solutions engineers in the first place, is because in my position, I actually spoke to them about their products, about their services. And that's what really kind of exposed me to that world. And that was the one aspect of my job that I really enjoyed more than other things in IT. So I actually got to know a bunch of sales engineers over the course of buying different things and learning about their role and how they have one foot in sales and one foot in a more technical arena. And it sounded like something I really wanted to do, but I wasn't sure if I could do it, because I had this traditional background and, I felt like I had invested so much time in my career. It'd be kind of weird and risky to kind of leave it. So I decided to go after and get some formal training. So that's when I discovered PreSales Academy. I was much in a position like some of you here where you're thinking about either advancing to a new path or pivoting somewhere else, and you're wondering if this is the right role. So I got the training here at PreSales Academy, and I got more exposure about what the job really is about and how you do it. And I haven't looked back since. So it's been fun. Like I remember as we went through the PreSales Academy, the courses, specifically things like the role plays and the demos. I was so nervous doing those in front of other classmates, like I was like sweating, I was like pacing around the room before my name was called. And I laugh at that now because I do demos and presentations daily at my job now. And it's like it's a cakewalk, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with the training that PSA did for me, where it's pretty much just broken down as a formula. And I followed that formula today. I followed it on my job interview, and I got really high praise from the interviewers because they said that it's one of the better presentations they've ever seen, which was really surprising because it's like I wasn't experienced sales engineer at all. So this had to be like from the stuff that I learned. So I'm really grateful for that. It's really nice to be in this position now. Like I mentioned before, you kind of have one foot in sales, and if you know anything about organizations that have sales teams, sales people can be, kind of like divas in the company. I'm not saying pre-sales are, but you get to ride on some of their coattails a little bit when it comes to things like working from home or going on fancy trips. Those type of things you are kind of additional perks because you're actually bringing revenue into the company. So yeah, that's kind of my story about the of how I got here and my experiences with the academy. Um, Maybe I'd want to share a little bit about the coursework itself.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's about 10 weeks now. When I joined the academy, it was a little bit shorter, which I'm glad to see that you guys
Yeah.
have more content now to share. Um, but yeah, there was a little bit of a balance, right? Because we did have to meet a couple times a week, and I still had a job, which you still have to prioritize. But I was so excited for these class times that I was like, okay, well, I obviously can't do too much of the PSA work in the daytime when I'm at the office, but my weekends is when I get to really kind of go through this. And what really helped also was your cohort members. So you're going to be teamed up with people that are in the same position as you, right? Most of them are going to be working full-time jobs. Most of them are going to have to balance life with family and school, either school or work. So they're going to have the same type of kind of demands on their life, and so you'll end up working with them with those different schedules. But everyone's there for like the same goal, right? Is to get better at it. So I didn't find the balance to be too hard, only because I was really excited about
Oh.
doing it. And I think that's one of the things that Nina was talking about, is finding the students who are committed and curious, because it motivates you to do it. So I'm happy to have found good cohort members, and we still talk today. And in fact, actually, one of my cohort members got another alumni a job recently. So they're very, it's so strange. You'll find that and strange in a good way, you'll find that everyone in the pre-sales world is so welcoming. And I call it strange because I've never experienced this. I mean, Nina's has brought up the slide with a whole bunch of different faces, and they're volunteers. And like I'm here and just telling my story, and no one's doing this for anything other than just kind of promoting the pre-sales industry. And I think that's unique because um, actually, I don't know why, but it's just really nice to see that type of energy in this industry. So I can go on, but I guess I'll wrap this up as you guys go through the Pre-Sales Academy. If you have any questions, obviously throw it in the chat. But I'll just say at the end of the Pre-Sales Academy, there is that whole job pursuit thing. And that to me was probably the most helpful. Like there's the prep work, which lays all the groundwork. There's the demos, which make it all fun and you know what you're doing. But what do you do with it now you have these skills? Is how do you get that first job? How do you get that first gig, right? And I wouldn't have gotten my job without the academy. I mean, they found the position, they found the company. The company recognized that I was an alumni of Pre-Sales Academy, and they scheduled me for an interview only because I was an academy graduate. So from there, that was enough for me to take on the rest of it and do my demo and my presentation, and here I am. So I would say for all of you who are still thinking over this decision, or some of you who have made this decision, I would advise, to really kind of dig your heels in, right? I think the most successful students here are the ones who have gotten the most out of it, are the people who have put the most amount of work as far as networking and committing to your cohort members, because you're going to see them grow. Some of them are going to get jobs. They're going to remember you. You're going to build your network. It's a kind of a really opportune time. And just like what Nina said about other students, I wish I had done it earlier myself. I think I'm in a really good position in life, and I wouldn't go back to my old job. So yeah, that's it for me. Unless you guys have any questions, I'll hand it back to Nina.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Mark. No, I love when graduates come back and are like reflecting on your experience, because like I mean it has been a bit of time since you've gone through the program
Yeah.
and you've had these opportunities to be like, oh, I actually am comfortable demoing now. It's not like when I started out and I felt like so shaky. And I feel like that's what's nice about going through a program like this. It's like, hey, I'm going to get the first really rough demos under my belt. And so when I go into my interview processes, they're even stronger, and they showcase like, hey, I have foundation I could build off of and then be a really amazing rock star at your company going forward.
Yeah, and it's great. Like I actually, so in the course, you'll get like a template for how to build a presentation and a demo. I used that 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
Um,
I love
you know,
that.
yeah, it comes in handy, and it's like because I was dealing with a new customer, so they actually laid out things like use cases for me. I'm like, oh, this is great to use the template. I still can use these materials that I used over a year ago. And still, it keeps paying off, right? And it's helping me do the job easier because, like I said, it's you guys break it down and make it so like formulaic. That makes it easy to approach.
Yeah.
And so yeah, yeah, I haven't thought about a lot of this stuff. I'm just reflecting now, but yeah, I'm glad to be back to talk about this.
No, it's amazing to have you. I'm going to pivot to my last couple of slides in the slideshow, but then we're going to open it back up for questions. So if y'all have questions for Mark, you better put them either in the chat or the Q&A because we are going to get to them very shortly. But let's just talk up and do some wrap up. So PreSales Academy does have tuition options for our program. So we have 2 tuition options for the program. The first one is upfront tuition of $4,995 over 2 installments. Since y'all are here in this info session, there is a quick discount if you're registered for this session. And also our second tuition option is a loan option with our outside provider, Climb Credit. So it is based on how much a student is approved for. So students can determine, hey, how am I going to pay this back over time based off what I am approved for. So those are the 2 tuition options for PreSales Academy. If you are someone who's like, hey, Nina, I'm really interested in this program, but the financial side is a little concerning for me, always feel free to reach out to our team. We could also chat about scholarships available. But if you are interested in applying for PreSales Academy, our next cohort is starting in November, which I can't believe November literally starts next week. Insane. But our November cohort will be kicking off on November 11th. So if you are interested, please make sure you get your application in before November 1st. That is our priority deadline. So we want to make sure that your application gets fully reviewed. You go through the admissions process properly. So make sure you get your application in soon as possible. Honestly, before November 1st is best. And there's no commitment even when you apply. You still get to go through the different stages of the admissions process, get your questions answered. And even if you're accepted to the program, you get to make that decision before you dive in and enroll. So I always recommend to have students apply just so that you learn more and have that one-on-one environment with our team. But just a quick overview about our next cohort. The November cohort is going to be a little unique. So you're like, Nina, it starts in November. This program's 10 weeks. Is this going to ruin my holiday vacation? No. So this cohort will start on November 11th. You'll start with stage 1, your asynchronous materials from November 11th through December 16th. Then we're going to go on a break for the holidays because we all need a break. And then we'll come back on January 6th for stage 2. This cohort will ultimately graduate on February 12th. So it's still 10 weeks of content. We just built in some break weeks to make sure that everyone's getting through the content properly. But now let's get back into some Q&A. I'm really excited to kind of dive into some of the questions in this space and also bring Mark back if there's any questions that really relate to him. But let's kick it off. I saw a lot of good skills in this space. Mark, I have a question for you if you're still with us in the space.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm curious, what do you believe are really important soft skills to bring into pre-sales?
You know what I've discovered, which is kind of silly, but it's just being nice, being able to connect to who you're talking to. I'm sure many of us have gone through a time when we're purchasing something, right? And you kind of tend to purchase things from people that you like. And so those soft skills are just being able to say, "Hey, how's your day?" And like, what are you thinking about? And repeating what their concerns are so that you understand and you show that you're listening to them. And that's like a lot of skills that you get from like other occupations, like being a
Yeah.
teacher or a real estate agent, for example. Um, so being able to connect to the customers and kind of leave that good impression is really important, more so than the technical aspect of a
Yeah.
product, right? You can always go find out, you can always go research later, but making that good impression from the forefront and just being a nice approachable person for them to be able to talk to is a really important skill to have, and it really sets you apart from the team. So
Yeah.
for my instance, my team of sales engineers, we have some engineers who are really technical heavy, and they need that assistance with the soft skills. And it shows. And so while I'm still one of the newer junior people on the team, I'll lead the discussions at first just to kind of bring that warm welcome. And that's really important to kind of set the tone, right? And then they'll come in with their technical knowledge and kind of be my backup, so to speak.
No, I agree. I feel like being that empathetic person to relate and build relationships is so necessary, and it's really a soft skill that you can get from multiple different areas and bring into this profession. So I feel like that was a really big one. I feel like being that person, also you're leveraging things like empathy and active listening, and these all like compound into like being a nice person in the sales space. But great answer, Mark. So I saw a lot of questions in the chat about product adoption or enablement. One thing that I always like to tell students is during the program, what we teach our students is our students will learn Salesforce Sales Cloud. They'll leverage it for all their major assignments and role plays, but the actual onboarding at a company and learning that company's product will look different at each place you're looking at. So that being said, Mark, I would love for you to share a little bit about what was your onboarding process like at Netrix? Like, how did they help you learn their product?
Yeah, sure. So like I was mentioning earlier, Network sells cybersecurity software. So like things like detecting network threats and blocking or protecting endpoints, monitoring, really technical stuff. And I didn't know anything about it when I joined the company. My first weeks on the job, I wasn't actually talking to any customers. What I was doing was I was just on a lot of calls with my, video off and just watching and learning how these sales cycles go. And then there's also like what you'll have in PSA, you'll kind of have like this what do you call it, like a curriculum.
Oh yeah.
So our company also developed like a library of knowledge, a knowledge base where you're reading like technical documentations, you're watching other people demo it, you're playing with the software itself to really kind of start to understand the ins and outs of it. And I'm over a year in my job and I'm still learning technical details all the time. So it's not something that you should be intimidated about because everyone is learning. And I don't think anybody knows every little thing about the product, especially the larger the company you work for. There's more and more feet in the or
Yeah.
hands in the product, right? So you have to just be resourceful and start asking people the right questions. um, so yeah, we have our internal knowledge base. We have plenty of videos to watch, and then I also have my own lab to kind of mess with things. I'm sure there could be more, but
Yeah.
there's a lot. There's a lot to learn, and it just continues as like there's a new software release and stuff like that. So I would I do say it's a lot, but I wouldn't say it's something. It should be something to hold you back because everyone is in that position.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great insight because yeah, every company is going to be a little bit different with how they show and help you teach learn the product, but like overall you're going to get opportunities to dive in, learn, and resources because they want you to become that product expert. But I love how you highlighted, Mark, that, hey, you're still learning. It's always an evolving thing, especially if it's a product that's been around for a while. It's like there's a lot of things to go through, and you've just got to kind of have that grace of yourself of like, hey, I'm going to slowly chip at this and kind of slowly become that product expert. And it's perfectly fine to also not know the answer. That's where kind of objection handling comes into the conversation as well. I'm sure you probably had to leverage that in the past.
On my customer calls and especially during my interviews. So that was one of the things that they were testing me on. And that
Mm.
was one of the things I learned in the academy was how to say I don't know, but I'll follow up with you and actually follow up. And I think one of my follow-up emails really kind of pushed me over the edge to land the job.
Nice. No, I find that like our job search support materials are super helpful to showcase to an employer that, hey, not only do you have transferable experience, but you also have a solid foundation from Pre-Sales Academy. But we're also going to give them those small insights of, hey, I can roll into this role and I'm treating this process really seriously. Like the amount of feedback I've gotten from students, like from hiring managers after their presentation, being like, oh, I've never like seen someone present like this, or I loved how you added that like pre-demo email, that post-demo email. It's just kind of like the icing on the cake that's like, hey, these are the things that are going to help you be a standout candidate in a competitive market.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And what I've learned, and I'm sure you guys talk about it a little bit about how the pre-sales industry is relatively new, right? And so
Yeah.
a lot of these people who have these jobs currently kind of just rolled into it somehow.
Yeah.
And there's no actual, they didn't actually like train it or go to school for anything. They used to be a technical person, or they used to work in the marketing team, or they used to work in sales or something like that. And they kind of just rolled into it, and they were kind of forced on the job, right?
Yeah.
And then because they don't have that training, they kind of just been doing things their own way. And one of the reasons why this academy exists is because there needs to be some sort of formal training, right?
Yeah.
Some standards, and so it does set you apart from other people when you have this real training.
Yeah, definitely. Some other questions in the chat. I know someone asked about the application. I just dropped into the chat. The prices for tuition, I also saw that in the chat, are based in USD for all my Canadian students. Um, Getting to some of the other questions, I had some questions about resumes and the like highlighting Pre-Sales Academy. One of the things we teach during the program is how to revamp your resume properly. So how are you still showing and listing those chronological pieces of your resume, but how are you reformulating your bullets to really showcase the skills needed for pre-sales and bringing those out for like an ATS machine or a recruiter to flag. So we do walk students through kind of like, hey, what are those words and terms you need to highlight so you're speaking the pre-sales language. We also coach students to like also include Pre-Sales Academy as a certification on their resume to showcase that, hey, I've been through this program. But I find that a lot of our students' job search process and the way that they're getting their foot in the door, not only by having a good resume, but also having a pre-sales portfolio, is through strong networking. Like Mark mentioned before, like there is a vast network of people, not from the only from the alumni group from Pre-Sales Academy, but also within Pre-Sales Collective. And this is a really friendly profession. And the best way for that I've seen our students kind of stand out in a process is to network, to tell their story, and really to be that one to in a conversation showcase that, hey, I do have those transferable experiences and I can leverage this into the role. There are going to be companies who have strict requirements and they're like, hey, I want someone with experience. But there are other companies who are like, hey, I need someone who could better speak to our customers. Or maybe in Mark's situation, I need someone who's friendly and actually can be that more conversationalist, has the strong interpersonal skills to balance out the strong technical side of our product. And so that's the big thing that I always like to emphasize with students. We've seen a lot of success of our students overall going through the job search process. One thing I do like to emphasize is everyone's process is going to be a little bit different. It was a really great opportunity that we were able to sync Mark up with Netrix and it worked out. I've been able to kind of like plug students into different opportunities that way, but every employer is looking for something different. Like Netrix was looking for someone like Mark and it worked out great. But other times when we chat with employers, they're looking for something broad and we could send multiple candidates their way. But what I always emphasize to students is you're the one driving your job search process. You need to be the one present and engaged and applying as well as interviewing. So always be the controller of your destiny. We teach our students how to find roles, apply, and maximize that along the way with our job pursuit office hours as well as our resources. But I see our most consistent and successful students are the ones who are really taking control of their process and having consistency over time. So that's an answer to that question. We are at the top of the hour, and I want to be mindful of Mark's time, everyone's time. So if anyone has a question that I wasn't able to dive deep enough into this conversation, please email us. Our email is info@presalesacademy.com. Hope I spelled that right. Yes. And so the application link was dropped into the chat. I'm also going to send a massive email to everyone who's registered for this event with the link. So do not worry, it's also on our website. But I want to take a brief moment to thank Mark for being here. Thank you so much for being our guest speaker, Mark. You've dropped so many great insights into this conversation. I think there's a lot of great takeaways that you've shared in this space today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's really good to be back. Yeah.
Good. I love that. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Have a good evening. If you have any questions, please send it our way, but have a good night and we hope to see you apply. Bye, y'all.